seeing fireballs in New Orleans, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. King Dictator Newsom declared a state of emergency in California.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjakovic, and we are unapologetically outspoken. Everybody, happy Monday. We are back after a week of vacation, and hope you guys enjoyed the episodes that we had last week. Kind of different, but cool. Today, it's very exciting because Erin is visiting me in the Czech Republic right now, and she's joining us for the podcast today. And we have a lot to catch up on from everything that we missed last week, and we're probably not going to cover it all, but there are a few interesting stories that we do have to talk about today.
We love a good Erin episode. How have you been, Erin? How have you been?
I am wonderful, thank you. Just very, as always, very honored to be with my amazing girls who just are kicking ass and changing perspectives, and I love it. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like with me being gone, even though we pre-recorded episodes, there's just been a lot happening.
Yeah.
It's insane. I feel like, remember how we were talking about time speeding up? It's like the news is speeding up too, I feel like. Like it used to be like, oh, what are we going to talk about this week? And there, we'd have a few topics. Now it's like, I've got 55 things I want to talk about right now. And
Right.
it's
Yeah.
going to change by Wednesday, you know? It's
Mhm.
crazy.
I know. It's insane.
Okay, so this is totally random, but we haven't done a migrant episode or whatever, the border episode in a while. Um, and I don't know if you saw in the news, but the Aurora, Colorado, which is where those apartment complexes were taken over that we did an episode about like months ago, two people, there was a couple that had Venezuelan migrants, and they're thinking it's that Tren de Aragua gang that came in and like tortured these people. They pistol whipped them. The girl, they like ripped out her fingernails. I mean, insane. And this is like, once again, in Aurora, Colorado. So clearly they haven't gotten rid of the problem completely, but I'm glad Homan's going to get in there and deport these people soon because this is insane.
Did you hear his interview with Tucker last week?
No, I've seen his. I need to like re-download Tucker's podcast because I'm not getting the updated episodes. But he's been like on the interview circuit everywhere lately, so I have seen him, but I didn't see that episode.
Yeah, he did a great episode talking about what he's going to do with cleaning up the border and how they're going to do all this deportation. And it was actually pretty interesting. So,
I always love Holman because he's one of those people where, and I've heard people say, oh, well, he seems so mean. And it's like, he's that kind of person where, first of all, you know where you stand with that man. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And you're taking a job that is a very hard job, that is a very, there's so many different emotions involved, but you can't actually do the job if you let that get to you. And he's just trying to do this job that needs to be done, you know? And it's interesting to me how these people that are, these are educated people that know how things work, and they're focusing on the fact that he's mean, and I don't know, I just have a hard time with that because I think what he's doing is very respectful, and he's doing a job that truly nobody would want to do.
Yeah, everything's about emotions, just like Trump's mean. He says mean tweets, and it's like, okay, well, I kind of feel like the people in power need to be a little bit mean because clearly when they're not, like they get taken advantage of, like America has been for so long. But I've seen like in the past when people will bring that up and kind of like get combative with him, I've seen him break down and tell them about these stories that happen. Like I've seen him cry talking about these stories that are so horrendous, but he will like give every detail so that they realize like this is why I mean this is like I have seen shit that no one should ever see in their life. And I know he was at that they had like that big America First convention or whatever, and it's with like young conservatives. And he was there talking to one of the reporters or media or podcasters. Um, but he was saying, not only are we going to start deporting people on day one, but the other priority immediately is to find the 340,000 missing children. And I was like, yes, like someone that gives a damn about this
He
and
was
is saying
talking
it out
about that.
loud.
Yeah, he was talking about that on the episode with Tucker, and
Mm.
Tucker's like, "Well, how are you going to find them?" And he
What
was
did he
like
say
going
to
into
that? Like
detail.
how
God, I wish I could remember the details.
I
Did you
think,
hear it?
yeah, and if you don't mind,
Yeah.
yeah. So one of the things he talked about was just that there are a lot of people in these positions where they're just sitting in offices doing paperwork, doing nothing. And he's like, I'm going to send people out. And it was very similar to the Tut Patel when he talked about how it was kind of a similar thing to that. Like you have a lot of people that are just sitting around doing nothing, getting paid, and he's like, I'm going to send them out. If they don't want to go, then they're gone. And I agree with that wholeheartedly because having worked for the government, you do have so many people that are getting paid these ridiculous salaries that truly are doing nothing, that are pushing papers. Put him out there, get him out there searching, doing research and that kind of thing.
See, this is
So,
where I don't even think they're going to have to fire people because Kash Patel was saying the same thing. He's like, these 7,000 FBI agents in DC, you're going out. You're going out in the country
mhm.
to go like
Yeah.
fight crime and get bad guys. And it's like, yeah, just make them like actually work outside of this little bubble that they're in. And I'm sure a lot of people will start dropping like flies and they won't have to fire everybody. But, to that point, those HHS whistleblowers that talked to Congress, they knew where a lot of these kids were. And they were
Hmm.
telling their superiors, like, hey, you know, we just dropped off this kid at a house where we've dropped off like 30 other kids. Something's going on. And they were told to ignore it and don't get the police involved. They're not allowed to call law enforcement. So I'm sure some of them have to be tracking this and keeping a log of like
Mhm.
where these sketchy ones are, because how could you not? Like, how could you have a conscience and like not want to follow up or help these kids?
This is so off topic, but it's something Erin and I were talking about yesterday. And you, Erin, you asked me like, we were talking about Hillary Clinton and the
Oh yeah.
whole, bathing in children's blood thing and like whether that's legitimate. And I was saying, yeah, I personally believe there it's probably pretty accurate. And we were talking about the missing migrant children, and it's like that's the easiest way for these fucking insane elites to do this stuff is 500,000 children go missing, but they're kids that nobody in the United States knows or most people don't even seem to care about. And it's like, for anyone that's into this crazy shit, like, what better way
Mhm.
to do it than with migrant children?
Yeah, no
And the fact that
identity, no way to
Yeah.
it's
track
not
them.
being talked about, that was one thing, hun, that we talked about yesterday was like that should be on every single channel like 9/11 was for months and months and months and months. The fact that I mean that these children are missing. And then you have, and they have these congressional meetings and things like that, and they ask them questions and they say, "Oh, we're not going to comment on that right now." Or,
Yeah.
"Oh, I can't. I'm not really quite sure. I don't have the numbers in front of me." It's a missing child. It's 300,000 of them or however many. It shouldn't matter how many there are or the numbers. Even one child is too many.
Well,
What are
and
they doing with them?
don't you think if they're, because this is the way that my conspiracy brain thinks, if they're not commenting on it, then that
Mhm.
tells me everything I need to know. Like,
Right.
okay, my conspiracy is true, because if it wasn't true, you would be a human being that wants to go and help kids. But the fact
Yeah.
that you don't, and we're not allowed to talk about it, and no news is reporting on it, and nothing comes of it, it's like, yeah, clearly a lot of these politicians are part of that party,
Yeah.
where they're using these kids, and it's horrific. And look at what happened to the Guatemalan government when they tried to call it out and bring attention to it. They got sanctions slapped on them. And so
Yeah.
that was like checkpoint two, confirming my conspiracy. It's like we all know it's happening. I'm just glad someone that actually has the ability to change it gives a damn.
Yes. I like how you said that. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I don't even like, I was debating. I'm like, I don't even really want to talk about this, but I just want to bring it up real quickly because it was so horrific. And I think people should know the Guatemalan migrant and the New York City subway. Did you see that? He lit a woman on fire. I mean,
Mhm.
this is insane. Like, how many people have to be brutally murdered before people are like come together and are like, yeah, we shouldn't keep allowing this, you know?
You saw that, right? Yeah.
Did you see the
I
video,
didn't.
Erin?
No, I didn't.
No, it popped. I didn't want to watch it.
I quickly
I'm sure
scrolled.
my curiosity will get to me, but for now, I just didn't
No,
want
I like quickly scrolled. I'm like, I don't want to see that. But then I heard people describing it and I had to like get off TikTok because I'm like, I don't even want to know about this stuff. It's so horrific. It's like, I don't know. Sometimes I just wish I didn't know. I'd rather be in La La Land, like everything's great.
if you don't mind, and I was going to tell you, we had a wonderful conversation yesterday, and I was telling her it was that I brought up the whole Clinton, Anthony Weiner's laptop thing,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
just said, because I told her, I was like, you're the person I have the most respect for your opinion. I was like, do you think that was real? And like, without a doubt, she goes, absolutely. And I told her about a kind of a little bit of not an argument, more of just a heavy disagreement I had with a gentleman at work. And his whole thing was like, there's no way something like that exists because if it did, the people would be in jail. And I literally just went,
Those were the
I
people
was,
that have been in charge for the past,
Yeah.
like, how many,
yeah,
years.
yeah. It was just, and then just to throw this in real quick on this thing with the poor woman that got lit on fire. It brought up something in my mind about, do you remember a while back when shit had just gotten nuts and there was a gentleman that lit himself on fire?
Yeah, we
You
talked about that.
Yes, and you
Yeah.
guys talked about an episode.
Mhm.
Yep.
And he had a manifesto which you read, and it was
Mhm.
like it was very strangely well spoken and well written and all that. But I started thinking about, I don't even remember that guy's name, right?
Right.
I don't either.
This is a guy that lit himself on fire to try to make a difference or make a change. And I don't even remember his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that hit me like, oh my gosh, I don't, it just really hit me hard. And it made me think of that awesome episode you guys did on it,
Well, okay, so this is going to throw you guys both for a loop. Erin, you probably have already heard this before. Tara, you're going to be like, what the fuck, Stephanie? But it comes up in these like conspiracies, right? So in his manifesto, the guy that lit himself on fire, he was saying how Trump and Biden and Obama are all friends. Like they're all part of the same club,
Mhm.
which like turned me off from like even listening to anything else that was in the manifesto. But there are a lot of people that think that everything that's been happening is like a psyop that Trump's involved in, and that it was kind of like had to be set up that way because people wouldn't buy in to everything he's doing unless there was this enemy of like the crazy left and whatever. And I went out for drinks last night with some of my girlfriends and my conspiracy friend. She's like on the fence with it. She's like, me and my friend have talked about this for years and we just don't know. Like, is he in on it or is he not? So, but I'll give my opinion, but what do you think of that?
Okay. Like I usually say, because this is now my standard answer, nothing would shock me at this point. If you asked me that, a year ago, I would have said, oh, fuck no. But honestly, nothing shocks me. And when I look at some of his picks, some of his cabinet picks, it makes me question because some of the people that he's choosing are not in alignment with the goals that he says he wants for the country. So that does make me question, is there something bigger going on? But I have put my faith in Trump. And so I want to believe in him and I want to believe in the plan that he tells us he has for our country.
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you think, Erin?
I think it's interesting, and I wish I would have remembered who it was, but there was this incredible scholar guy that was talking, and he was saying how, like, in regards to that psyop where everybody's involved, the only way to get that to work is that there always has to be a good guy and there always has to be a bad guy. right? Now, from whichever side, if you want to look at it more from like the left or the right, whoever the good guy and bad guy is, they're going to have their picks on both sides. But um, the only thing I'll say about that, I have no doubt that there's information Trump knows absolutely that he would not ever disclose because it would reflect badly on him. I have no doubt in that. Uh do I personally think he's a man that wants to see the country burn? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because and the way I look at that too, just from the guy took a bullet to the head, and I've talked to a lot of people that are good friends of mine that know rifles, know guns, know how to shoot. That shot was not something that could have been set up, or
Yes.
you know what I mean. It's so the thing
Mhm.
is that either the guy's really in on it like a suicide bomber and he's willing to take one to make a point, but in my opinion, no. I again, do I think he's the angel that some people make him out to be? Absolutely not. That's one of the
Yeah.
things I like about him, though. I like the fact that he is not perfect. I like the fact that he doesn't go around like Gavin Newsom with this handsome smile and say everything you want to hear and then just shit over everything in the back. Like in my opinion, Trump is a man that is just, he's a good man that has an extremely hard job. And like my dad used to talk about, he's a guy that's in there with a bunch of alligators. Like that's what my dad used to say. It's like, that's the best way I can put it, I guess, is no, I do not. I do not think he is. I think that there are things that we are going to find out of eventually that he does know about that we're going to be like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think so.
Yeah, my gut tells me that like he really cares about this country.
Yeah.
And I think he has good intentions. And he's been talking about this stuff for decades. Like you see those clips from Oprah back in the day where he didn't like call out people like the Clintons or anything like that, but like he was calling out the crazy stuff happening that our politicians should do something about. And then I think in that debate with Hillary back, way back when, he was saying, like, I know because I'm one of them. Like, I know the games that they're playing. And so, like, that, I feel like he's been in that world. He probably knows about a lot of this stuff. Does he partake in, like, the really dark stuff? I don't think so. Like, I genuinely don't get any sense whatsoever that he's, like, the same as the Clintons or the Bidens
Oh,
or
fuck no. No,
Podestas.
definitely not.
Yeah.
And honey, I was just gonna say real quick is like I think too the fact that you have a lot of people that'll say like, oh well, Trump is selfish, like he only wants the country to be great for his children and his grandchildren.
What's
What is
wrong with
wrong with
that?
that?
Yeah.
And there was a woman on a TikTok I saw the other day, and she was talking about that, like, how dare he? He's not thinking about everybody else. He just wants to make the country great for his children.
Like that should be everybody's
That should be
goal.
everybody's
That's
goal,
one of the
like,
things that
yeah,
gives me
yeah,
peace of mind because
yeah.
when people start talking about this kind of thing, I think like, well, he has kids and grandkids and he's not gonna do anything that's gonna jeopardize their future. Like that
Even
gives
if it
me
is
peace of
selfish.
mind.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, you want to look at it like, oh, he's selfish because he cares about his family and his kids. That's how it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
So
That should literally be everybody's goal
yeah.
to make it a better place for
Yeah.
your children.
Yeah.
And if you don't have
Yep.
children, to make it a better place for your family members' children and your friends' children and all the people that will be here when you're fucking gone.
Hmm.
There was a quote I heard, and I remember telling her I was back in the day, I was like, I'm gonna get that tattooed. But it was the quote was amazing, and it was like, you figured out the meaning of life when you can plant a tree knowing that you'll never sit under its shade. And
Mm.
I always thought that was so powerful because I mean that's true. I mean Trump's an older gentleman now. I mean he's up there, man. Like most of us, even at our age, are like, ah, well, we've had a good run, whatever. Like the guy's older, and the fact that he's doing this horrific job that none of us would want, I wouldn't certainly want it. And he's doing that to make things better. in the end stages of his life is one of the most noble things I can think of.
Yeah, he's a billionaire that could be
Right.
Yeah.
spending every day golfing,
Yeah.
Hmm.
yachting, like
Yeah.
whatever, and he's dealing with, assassination attempts.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And multiple
Well,
lawsuits.
yeah, yeah. And lawyers, my God, the lawyers.
Yeah. Okay, Stephanie, I we have to talk drones. We have to talk drones because there have been so many updates over the last week. So please, we need to get into this.
all right, let's do it. Let me pause because I'm gonna have a coughing fit. So hold on one sec.
Okay.
Sorry for everyone that's listening. They're probably like, what's going on? Because it was only a second. I just had a whole coughing fit because I am still sick. But, thanks to technology, we can just pause things for a few minutes. But yeah, the drones, the never-ending drones. Okay, it's getting weirder and weirder and weirder. So let's start out with my own personal story real quick. So, I sent you the picture from Tampa of the orb that was like changing colors and shape shifting. Well, we went to Naples, which is like 3 hours south of here. And I was outside letting the dog out at night and I look up and I freaking see another one. So I get out my
Mhm.
phone and I zoom in. Same thing. Like, definitely not a star, definitely not a drone. Looks like a plasma ball. And I go inside, I'm showing my mom and my daughter, and they're like, "Oh my God, like this is nuts. Like what is going on?" And I go back out. This is like not even an hour later and it's gone. So like if there's no way it's a star. A star doesn't just boom like out of the, you know,
Mm.
peripheral vision of so I'm just like, what the hell? And then on TikTok, it's like I cannot scroll more than 2 times without seeing new footage. But now
Yeah,
the footage, it's not just New Jersey, it's like literally everywhere.
everywhere. I
Yes.
sent you that thing from my mom where she
Yeah.
sends me this video and there's this drone outside of her house and she said it was like stationary for 10 minutes and so like and she had their family over because there are people visiting for the holidays and she calls people out of the house and she's like everyone come look at this and they're all standing in the yard like looking at this drone in the sky or whatever the fuck it is and then a plane flies by it. So you can tell it's not a plane because a plane fucking flies past this thing. And she said it was there for 10 minutes. And she's like, I feel like we're being observed by aliens. I think it saw me and it's trying to control my brain.
I
We
mean,
love you, Mama.
Yeah.
we just don't know if it is plasma, we just don't know much about it because they say it's intelligent,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. And I know you and I talked about this very briefly offline, like via text one day, and I just want to say this before I forget about it. But remember I said like, you know who's not saying anything? Fucking Elon Musk. Like
Yep.
he has posted nothing about this at all. Like there's a meme or something on X, but he has said nothing. This is a month into this shit. And this is a guy who is involved in some like major player in the space world and he hasn't said a fucking thing. Like, is that not weird?
It's aligned with like what he's said in the past because he has said multiple times when asked, because Joe Rogan always asks him about aliens, and he's always like, if there were aliens, like I would be the first one to know about it because I'm freaking out there,
Mhm.
And he has said so many times, anything you're seeing is our military, like private contractors associated with the military. So it's like, why don't we just believe the guy? I mean, I'm telling you, like, I think it's Project Bluebeam, and I think I sent this to you, Tara. I can't remember, but I started looking up the whole like plasma thing. And I found
Mhm.
these articles from like 2020 where, and then there's multiple like 2020, 2021, 2022, where it says the US Navy laser creates plasma UFOs. This was in 2020 that they were
Yeah.
like working on making plasma so that it would look like UFOs. And I guess they did it to, what did they do? One of the things was protecting aircraft from heat-seeking missiles. Another was like trying to trick like our adversaries. So like if they already have this technology, I mean, is it that far-fetched to think they're going to use it on us? Like, of course they are, right?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, and if you don't mind, so my a good friend at work, Steven, he's a really great guy to talk to, and he has all sorts of different knowledge on all different subjects. But he said something to me the other day in regards to the drones that it kind of blew my mind because I never really considered it. He said, "You got to remember, Erin." He's like, "They're not going to show you their hand." He's like, "So the technology that you see day to day, from the government, from private industry, is the technology you're seeing has already been figured out 15 to 20 years ago. So he's like, it's the technology that we're not seeing, and that concept just kind of blew my mind, but it makes sense. They're not going to show their hand, and that can go for all different types of things. But in regards to these drones, because just even the amount of power it would take to keep something up there that's the size of a car, you know what I mean? Like for that long and to be able to maneuver the way it does, um, in itself is quite a feat.
But it's not just the drones. It's the drones, it's the orbs, it's the shape-shifting things. It's like if this was just a drone problem, that would be one thing. But there's multiple things going on. And to me, that's what makes it even more questionable. And I have to ask you this, Erin, because I want to know if, like, you've been here, but I want to know if any of your friends have seen it. Because on Saturday in the south of the United States, people were seeing fireballs in New Orleans, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And like fireballs, blue ones and green ones and red ones. And it's like, I saw some of these videos and it totally looks like a shooting star. And then it breaks off into these little clusters of fireballs. And so, I'm reading all this stuff like, oh, it's comets or it's meteors. And I'm looking at reports on the American Meteor Society, and there's this local meteorologist, Malcolm Bryan, and he's like, no, these, that's not what they are. He's like, he posted on X and he said, when these fireballs last for more than 10 seconds, it's a satellite or space junk re-entering the atmosphere. Not confirmed, but that's my hunch. And I'm like, okay. And then this astronomer from the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, this guy, Jonathan McDowell, he puts on X that he thinks it's a Chinese satellite. And it's this company in Beijing called Space View. And the satellite burned up after it came back into the Earth's atmosphere. And then I'm reading that one of our favorite organizations, the NOAA, they're basically saying, on average, there's a total of around 200 to 400 tracked objects that enter the Earth's atmosphere every year. And that's about one a day. And they're like, it's a numbers game, and human populations live on a small percentage of Earth. So any objects that don't burn up and they disintegrate when they re-enter the atmosphere, they usually fall into the ocean because the ocean is 70% of the Earth. And okay, but if that's their explanation, how does that account for this massive increase in sightings over the last month, right? That would sure make sense if there really is one a day and it's falling over the ocean and then we rarely see them. But this increase in what people are seeing, it's not that people are looking at the sky more, I don't think. So it's like, what the fuck is going on? Is it the
Yeah.
alien invasion? Is it space debris? Is it our own government? Like, what the fuck is it? And so then I came across this CBS YouGov poll that they did last week, and it was December 18th to 20th. And the poll said that 78% of people think our government is keeping the truth from us. And 53% of people said they think the drones are a threat to our country. 26% of people say they think the government's controlling them. 18% think it's like private citizen drones. 17% think they're like from China and foreign countries. 2% of people believe it's aliens. And 37% of people have no fucking clue what to think, right? So
Yeah.
I know, like Stephanie, we talk about this all the time. Erin, what do you think?
Well, I was just gonna say it's interesting because I have two good friends out in Arkansas where they live. It's my friend Tommy and Dennis, and they live out in the middle of nowhere. And you know that one of the best places to look at the sky is when you live out in the middle of nowhere. There's no city lights or anything like that. And Anyway, they both sent me messages, and these are guys that, they got their shit together. They're intelligent guys. They're not bullshitters, and they flat out were like, I am seeing things that I've never seen before in the
Yeah.
sky. And they mentioned the one that you did about how, like, the shooting star with the kind of a, whatever
Like
you
a
can call that.
fireball.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
fireball. And I kind of joked around, with them. I didn't really take, not that I didn't believe them. I just thought, well, what are you going to do about it? And but I went out there and I looked and I didn't see anything, but I kind of do live closer to the city, so I don't have as good a view. But the fact that these are not guys that are bullshitters, these are straight up guys, and for them to say that they've seen something that is not a shooting star, is not a, what I mean? Because how many shooting stars do you see in your lifetime?
Right.
I have to be quite honest with you, ladies. I have not considered what they are. I've focused more on the fact that the government, like, I forget the gentleman's name, but they had that one white, the was like the interview they had the other day with the gentleman where he's like, we don't know what they are.
Right.
And
Pick your pick. John Kirby, Mayorkas, they're all KJP. They're all saying the same fucking thing.
and it was and I hate to say this, but it was just pathetic. It was like, you know what? I would have more respect if they got up there and went, listen, we don't fucking know what it is. We've got a bunch of people looking into it, and we've got a bunch of things, but we don't know. That I would have more respect for that than, well, they don't look like they're hostile, and we have,
Right.
I love how they say, well, we know that they're not, God, I wish I remember exactly how we said it, but it was like, we know that they're not hostile and that they're not, a threat. How the fuck do you know that? And
Yeah.
even then, how do you have any type of information that leads you to that conclusion and you're not sharing that with us? It's like our defense budget, the money that we spend, the taxpayers' money that's used for this, and you can't give us a better explanation than, well, I don't know. Yeah,
It's like gaslighting. It's like if you have to
Yeah.
shut down military
that's a
bases,
perfect word. Yeah.
airports, and stop emergency helicopters from traveling, like that's an issue. Like, don't tell us, oh, it's fine, like they're supposed to be
Yeah.
there, you know? But
Yeah.
the whole fireball thing last night, because I would think like, okay, it's a meteor shower, like something like that. Except I saw a video last night, these guys in St. Louis posted where they thought a plane was crashing. They were like, holy shit, is that a plane? Because it was. It was like a ball of fire, like falling. And when it gets like not too far from the ground, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred feet, it stops falling and it splits into like 10 different orbs that just stay in the air. And it's
Yeah.
like that, if that was space debris, like I,
Yeah.
I don't think space debris does that, guys. Like what?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
What happened to gravity? Like what's going on?
Yeah. But
Um,
it's like you said perfectly, hun. The way that I look at it these days is like the US government is like a cheating spouse or a cheating friend or whatever. They're going to tell you straight to your face that what you're saying is absolutely not accurate when that's exactly what is going on.
Mhm.
And it's like you said perfectly, gaslighting. And that's what truly, I think I've spent more of my energy being focused and pissed on that than I have like, well, what are they?
yeah,
Because in my opinion, truly in my opinion, and I've always said this, that if we think there's no such thing as aliens and that we're the only thing in the galaxy, that is the most arrogant and ridiculous opinion you could possibly have. Like that you think we're
right.
the most advanced thing in civil in the galaxy.
Well,
I
okay.
unequivocally believe they're aliens. Yeah.
With you saying that, like we're the most advanced thing, it just made me think like we're closer to World War III than we've ever been, right? And there is this like fear of like what happens if whatever. Well, we definitely, I mean, are or we look at ourselves as like the most advanced in our world in terms of like the United States military. So, I mean, a very plausible idea in my mind is like this is the military or the private contractors, so they can say it's not the military is showing like Putin and China and Iran, like all these people, like, hey, we have shit you can't even fathom. Like, don't fucking try it. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's all there is to it. Or maybe it is Elon Musk being like, we've got shit that would blow your mind. Like, we can send a rocket to space and have it land back at the launch pad. Like,
And
don't
grab it like
mess
this.
with us. Yeah. I mean, it like, but that's the thing. If they don't say, we don't know, and maybe they're not saying because they don't want our adversaries to know, like, yes, this is our technology. I don't know.
But they're going on 4 weeks of not saying.
Yeah, and it
Like,
keeps
that's
getting
the thing.
worse because it
Yes.
was like orbs, but then all of a sudden it wasn't orbs. Then it was drones. Now
Hmm.
it's these fireballs. Then
Yeah.
in where was it? Arizona, colorful triangles, like LED triangles up in the sky. Um, in North Texas at Lockheed Martin and that NAS Joint Reserve Base, it was like kind of like a drone, I guess, but like multicolored. It was like pink and yellow and blue and all these different, like a light show.
Yeah.
And it's like they just keep rolling out new shit. And I just, it's very confusing for the American people. And okay, our TikTok friend Shipwreck that was on the
Hmm.
show way back
Yeah.
when, she posed a really good question. She was like, what would it take for us to actually believe whatever, like let's say the government's like, you know what, it is aliens and we're going to show you all this proof that it's aliens. She's like, we would all be like, you're fucking lying, Project Bluebeam. And
Yeah.
she's like, so what would it take for us to like actually believe whatever ends up coming out? And I was like, that's a good question because I don't believe anything anymore, you
Yeah. Well, I
know?
have a wild story for you guys because
Ooh.
I started reading this article in the Daily Express and it was so interesting. I ended up going on YouTube and watching the video. But have you ever heard of Leroy Chow?
Mm-mm, no.
Okay. He's actually been like all over the news lately because he's a former astronaut. And I guess he was like the 196th astronaut to go into space. And he's also a pilot, so he has his own plane. And he was doing this interview with News Nation on Friday, and they were asking his opinion of what's going on with the drones. And so he goes into that in this clip, but then he starts talking about this an experience that happened to him in August. And this was before all the drone drama started. And I want to know your take on this because I thought it was pretty fucking wild.
Chow, former NASA astronaut. He was a commander on the International Space Station as well. Chow has flown several space missions. 3 of them lived on the International Space Station for 6 months. Joins us live here on the Hill once again. Always nice to see you, Leroy. Always fascinating to speak with you. You know what's up there in our skies. You're one of the rare who've been up there and lived on the International Space Station. This is skies of a different kind. But from your perspective, sir, what do you think is going on?
It is pretty mysterious. It's hard to believe that our government doesn't really know what's going on. When these things come up, at first blush to me, it seems like it's some kind of a military program, our military program. And if it's not that, then it gets a little more scary. It's like, well, is this some kind of a bad actor state probing us and seeing what they can do? It seems like it's way too widespread and organized to be some kind of prank, unless somebody's got a lot of money to spend on that. So it's hard to say. It's, our government has denied any knowledge of it or that it's any one of their operations. So I'm just as mystified as you are, actually.
You're mystified, but you also had an incident yourself, right? What happened?
Well, that's right.
What did you see, and what do you think it was?
Right, and that was in August. I was flying back from Colorado, and I just refueled in the panhandle of Texas in my small airplane, and I was flying back to Houston on an instrument flight plan, and we were in clear air, and I was about 9,000 feet, and suddenly, out of nowhere, these 2 big metallic spherical orbs, one on top of the other, about 3 feet in diameter each, went zipping by the left side of my airplane, right underneath, about 20 feet away. And I got a good look at them only for a second. And, it happened so quick, there wasn't even a chance to get scared, but it could have been a bad result. if they had actually hit me. So
what do you think it was?
That was mysterious. It wasn't on radar. Air traffic control certainly didn't alert me. It wasn't on my display that shows other airplanes that are participating with the FAA required transponders. So I don't know what it was. My first guess is it's some kind of a military program, a drone of some kind. But it's hard to say, right?
Do you think they knew that they were messing around with someone who used to be up on the International Space Station?
Frankly, I think whoever was operating the drone wasn't aware that I was there, right? So it's just kind of dumb luck that they didn't hit me. And gosh, it kind of makes me a little more, wary as a pilot. And I'm keeping my eyes out a little more outside than I used to.
Is the government doing enough, Leroy?
What's that?
Is the government doing enough?
I'm sorry, you're cutting out a little bit.
Is the government doing enough? Do you think they're doing enough to basically get to the bottom of this?
They could be a little more transparent. I think they could tell us what they know. I mean, and like I said, if they really don't know, that's a little more disconcerting, right? I mean, shouldn't they know? I mean, how could we have the best, most advanced military and capabilities, technological capabilities in the world, and if they don't know, that's even more disconcerting.
Okay, like we play these clips, right, from experts and people that are space experts or pilots and this, that, and the other, and they all say the same fucking thing, right? Is the fact that our government claims not to know, how is that possible? Like, how the fuck is that possible?
Well, and then you had Trump do that press conference where he said they absolutely know. They know where they're coming from and they know where they're going. And he's like, whether it's a garage or whatever. Like, I think he was hinting at, like, yes, they know it's them. And, he said, like, I forget exactly what his words were, but like, basically how if they're not saying what, like, they're not letting us know, it's because they want us guessing.
Right. Okay.
You know?
Okay, I have to ask you something else. Sorry, I'm shifting gears again, but this made me think of it because the guy's an astronaut. So another thing that Stephanie, you and I were talking about a few days ago when you sent me that text about the inconsistencies in the stories about the stranded astronauts and the new information that's come out. And Erin, I don't know if you're familiar with any of this.
Just a little bit.
So
yeah.
Stephanie, please,
Yeah.
give me some details. Give us some details.
Yeah. Okay. So I forget when this was, maybe like October. We did an episode where we were talking about there were the astronauts that were stranded because their Boeing spaceship like wasn't working or whatever. So Elon Musk was going to go send his rocket or whatever to like save them and bring them back home. And he did. Like I vividly remember they landed safely. It was a man and a woman. And the media was like, everything's fine, but they've been sent to whatever medical center for observation. And I remember this vividly because all over TikTok, people were like, they're in quarantine. Like, why? You would think when something like that happens, there's going to be news cameras everywhere. They're going to give interviews. They're going to talk about their experience. Not a peep. Didn't we saw them and then they get in this car and they go to this medical facility. We never hear from them again. So that's when people were talking about that bacteria that like resistant to, any antibiotics was in the ISS and they were like, maybe they're infected. There's all this speculation and then it kind of went away. Well, then recently I come across something and it's like, oh no, they're there. They're at the space station. And I'm like, no, they're not. No, 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 they're not. Like, I remember vividly, no, they're still there. They've been putting out videos. One of the videos that has everyone speculating is them wearing Christmas hats. And so everyone's like, okay, let's think about this for a second. They go up there in June. They're only supposed to be there for a short amount of time. They're not supposed to be there till December. Where the fuck did they get Christmas hats? You know what I mean? And it's a man and a woman, like the same ones that were stranded before. So everyone's like, is this a Mandela effect? Did something happen where we are in like a parallel reality? Are they like messing with us? Like what's going on? So this has been like a mission of mine to figure out what the fuck is going on because it's blowing my mind. And
Dude,
I come across this article that says one article out of the entire internet, I could find one article that had like one paragraph that said there were like 8 astronauts stranded, and all of them came back except for these two. And I'm like, no, that is not what happened. I vividly remember the man and the woman, and Elon Musk sent the rocket, and they came back to Earth. But they're saying,
do you
no, that
remember, hon? I just want to throw this in there. Hon. This is one thing about the internet that I treasure is memes, right? Memes are the
mm-hmm,
best, and they will call out and make fun of things. And they had this meme that was like, imagine being Boeing and talking shit about Tesla and Elon, and then having to call Elon to go save your astronauts. And it was like this big joke, of like, oh, that you had to come crawling back, and they had these memes talking about how like the astronauts landed and they were just like, oh, thank God for Elon Musk, and these were like actual
yeah.
memes that came out. And I love hearing this because it's like I had no idea this was even a thing.
Well, there's people
Yeah,
on TikTok that are posting their own videos that they did back in October or whatever it was, where they were talking about it. And they're like, see, like we have proof that this happened. What, but you can't find anything on the internet. I mean, like,
no, the only
what's
thing you
going
can
on?
find, there's all these articles, I'm looking right now, articles about how doctors are concerned about their health because now
Hmm.
they've been stranded like longer than anyone's been there. And they're only supposed to be there for 8 days, and now they've been there for fucking months. And nothing about anything other than their health and how much longer they're going to be there. And then, yeah, there's pictures of them with their Santa hats.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm telling you, like, with everything that we covered in the tech episode, where it was like, Google's pretty much proving there's like parallel realities, right? Because that's where these quantum computers are like able to pull information that we can't even fathom. Like, are we shifting parallel like, was there a reality where they came home and now we're in one where they're still stranded? Was there a reality where there was nothing in our sky and now we have all these like orbs and stuff? Or is it one big psyop? Or did this quantum computer do something? Because it's like the same time that thing revs up is the same time all these orbs and drones and everything else started.
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
just like I feel like it's one big mind fuck. Like someone's messing with us. You know?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this. We had a whole thing about this. I know it happened. And now it's like, no, no, it didn't. Nope. You're
That
wrong.
I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So that's weird. And then the other weird thing too is this girl that I follow, she was talking about the James Webb telescope, which is like the most
Yeah, we
advanced
talked about that.
telescope.
Yeah.
Yeah. And apparently there's always a live stream with NASA where you can see whatever this telescope's seeing. And she watches it like every day. And she's like, ever since all this stuff started happening, I can't get on. It's glitching. So then I tried getting on and I got a security warning. Like it would not let me go through to the website because it's like this website could be hacked or like, like one of those if you're going to like some fishy website or whatever. And I was like, but this is nasa.gov, like slash whatever it was, James Webb Telescope. And I get that message. I'm like, well, that's odd. And because her
Yeah.
whole thing is like, why won't they let us see? Like, what are, we could see it every other day. Why do they not want us to see what's happening up in the sky with this big telescope?
There's some shit going on. Like,
Yeah.
again, this is we've been talking about the same thing for 4 weeks now. And it rather than getting answers, we're just getting more conflicting information and more confusion.
Yeah, I know. I it's like I keep thinking, okay, we're gonna get closer and closer to the answer. I feel like I just get more and more theories like as we go, and
Yeah.
then it's like I don't know what to
The more
believe.
answers, the more question.
Hmm.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, complete confusion. Maybe it's all just one big distraction. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, speaking of distractions, I have to bring something up because when I saw this, made me like, I knew it. I knew it. It was one of those moments. So, you know how I was completely obsessed with the bird flu for
Yep.
months like earlier this year, like totally obsessed, right? And I kept saying they're going to try to make it the next pandemic. It's coming. And maybe not even like a health pandemic, but a food supply pandemic. Well, what happened while we were on vacation last week? Fucking dictator Newsom declared a state of emergency in California. And there was a farm worker in Louisiana who got hospitalized for bird flu because he's in critical condition for respiratory issues with bird flu. And they were saying it causes eye redness and slight infections. And it's like, nope, now it's turned into something bigger. And the CDC's still saying it's not a big risk. And I guess since April, there's only been 61 confirmed cases in the United States. But the guy who was hospitalized in Louisiana was the first case of somebody contracting bird flu that was not working at like a commercial facility. And this was a guy that just had like backyard chickens or something. So I just want to update everybody because, again, I was obsessed with this. So there have been more than 865 dairy cow herds that have been infected in 16 different states since March. There have been more than 123 million chickens that have been killed since the outbreak began in 2022. And why is California specifically declaring a state of emergency? I didn't know this. Tell me if you guys knew this. California is the top producer of milk in the United States. I would have assumed it would have been like a dairy
Wisconsin
in
or
the
something?
Midwest. Yeah. Yeah. But
I
no,
would
it's
assume that too.
California.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess 649 out of these 86 herds that have been infected, 649 of them are in California. And so I think California total has like 900 and something. And so it's
Okay.
saying like,
I just got to jump in because it's
okay,
like, when did COVID hit? Okay, yeah, March, but no, we
right.
really started hearing about it in like December. What time of the
Mhm.
year is this? What's happening to me right now? I'm sick because everyone's sick
Yeah.
because it's like flu season.
Mhm.
And when we had COVID, did you know we had like no flu cases? Like
Right.
miraculously,
I
like the flu
remember.
went away. So now the flu is probably going to go away again because it's going to be the bird flu. And that's why they're launching, that's why they're talking about this right now. Like,
Right.
I mean, this is some bullshit. So one
Yeah.
person's been infected and they call a state of
One
emergency.
person, one person who's not even in the state of California, but in Louisiana prompts a state of emergency in California. And what's interesting, it's like, I guess on this happened on December 12th. It's not just like the chickens, it's all the dairy herds that are being infected. And so, again, it's not a risk to humans, but it is a risk to our food supply. And I just went down the rabbit hole of reading all of these articles, right? And the California Department of Public Health, they're saying that the virus basically kills like 90 to 100% of infected chickens and poultry, and 1 to 2% of infected cows. And then other statistics stay like up to 5% of infected cows. But how is this impacting the American public if not by health concerns? The fucking prices are skyrocketing when it comes to chicken and milk and eggs, right?
And they've
So
already been skyrocketing thanks to
yes,
inflation.
exactly. And so the Bureau of Labor put out their statistics, and they were saying at the beginning of the year, the average cost of eggs in the US was like 225 a dozen. In November, like as of November, it was up to 365. That was like the average in the country. But then I was looking at another report and they were saying this is a commodity data firm called Expana. And they were saying like the cost of a dozen eggs in the Midwest has gone up by 150% over the past year. And eggs are now like 557 a dozen. And then overall across the United States, like the index for meats and poultry, fish, eggs, it's all risen. And like beef increased 3.1%, eggs rose 8.2%. And I want you guys to tell me if you can guess what the average price is for a dozen cage-free eggs in California right now.
$10.
7.
Okay. You guessed high, you guessed low. It's $8.19 a dozen.
I've
$8.
literally spent that much. Yeah.
My God.
Because I will only get like the whatever free range shit because I learned
Yeah.
about all the nastiness at these like farms. So it's already been like expensive. But okay, here's the other thing that's weird about this though, because the only thing I've heard about this, Tara, is I saw a clip on like some news program my dad was watching where they were talking about California. And the one thing that stood out to me was she was like, so far the chickens that have been affected like in this state are just backyard chickens in people's homes. And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me like I could see if there is a chicken farm with millions or thousands of chickens how it would spread, but you're
Yeah.
telling me that someone has their own little backyard chicken coop and somehow those chickens just happen to be the ones that get infected.
Mm-hmm.
They're like targeting people that are self-sustainable because that's a big trend. It's
In
hurting
one
their
of the
industry.
most liberal states in the
Yep.
country that
Yes.
has a dictator governor.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Before I went on vacation, we might have even talked about this. I don't remember. Newsom was all over like the news or whatever saying how he's putting all these measures in place to make sure that Trump's agenda cannot go through in California. Come back from vacation. Now he's declaring a state of emergency.
Yep.
Well, why would you declare a state of emergency? Well, look at all the power California had during COVID. You could do
Right.
anything. You
Yeah.
could, like, this is how he's going to stop, you know, Trump's agenda in California. Like, it has nothing to do with the bird flu or chickens or cows.
Yeah.
It's power.
Have you guys seen there's been a lot of again me and my memes, but a lot of memes talking about like what at what point did you take the red pill like and wake up, right? And it was interesting because there was this awesome young man that was talking, and he was like a full-blooded, on the left, more, liberal guy. And he was talking about how when they started stopping private farmers from selling their meats and their eggs and their milk to other people. And he said that at that point, he goes, it started kind of clicking for me. He's like, because I want you to think about that. These are people that are, farm fresh, all the things that are supposed to be good that they charge more for at the store, right? And so you have these people doing that, and then they'll turn around and they'll make it illegal, or they'll fine them because they want to sell their milk and their eggs to their neighbor. And when you think about that, that goes against everything that would be a positive. You know what I mean? And I loved how that guy said that when he talked about that's when it started waking him up. Like, wow, we don't hate the government enough, And yeah, and there was that. And then also, what were we just talking about? I'm sorry.
Bird flu?
Yes, thank you. With the bird flu. He was talking about that too, how the fact that they're losing control by more people having a few chickens in their backyard is even that concept. I mean, the world is very, very abundant. And the fact that if it really comes down to just money and that's why they're doing this, that's one thing. But in my opinion, I mean, it definitely seems absolutely atrocious that these huge corporations and things like that would try to take out these small little farms. You know what I mean?
But that's the whole thing. Like that was the thing with COVID. What did it do? It didn't take out the big box stores. It only like increased their wealth, took out all the independent people. And that's the same thing. If you look at what's happening in California, you have all these farmers. And I went down the rabbit hole. I read so many fucking articles, and all these farmers are talking about how like they're not going to be able to get back to capacity because they've been quarantined and shut down with these bird flu outbreaks. It's been like $80 million lost to California farmers because of bird flu issues. And it's like, these are small facilities. They can't comply with the strict like biosecurity measures and the EPA regulations that Newsom wants to institute in the state, to curb the spread. And it's exactly the same fucking thing that happened with COVID. It's destroying the middle class and the working people and taking away their independence and their freedom, fucking the consumer at the same time. And it's like, this is 100% about control, because they knew about this bird flu shit fucking years ago, right?
Yeah.
This is not like something that came out of nowhere. And we had been following this for months and months and months, where like nothing was ever done. And now suddenly it's a state of emergency problem.
Right. I mean, it wasn't enough to blow up all those farms with, millions of animals. Now there's this. And I remember one of the episodes we did on it, and they were saying even if the birds have no symptoms whatsoever, if they test positive, the whole herd
Kill 'em.
or whatever
Yeah.
you call them, flock is taken out, is euthanized.
Yeah.
And they're using the freaking PCR test, like the
Right.
COVID test that
Yeah.
we know is not accurate. So it's mind blowing.
Right. And even if they're not killing the same amount of cattle, it's impacting the cattle's milk production. And then they're telling people you can't drink raw milk. And then they recalled a bunch of raw milk in California like a few weeks ago, I think. And it's, again, it's just like, this is shady. This is manufactured shadiness.
Yeah.
Well, and thanks to like RFK and, all these people that have been talking about the food industry, there's this huge shift towards eating eggs, bacon,
Right.
meat, like
Mhm.
just, stuff like that, not buying anything in a box. So,
Right.
all these food companies are like hurting and they're feeling it, and it just keeps trending more and more towards that. So, what do? You make everyone terrified to drink milk, to eat eggs, to eat meat because, it's all infected with the bird flu.
Right. And you got to remember, it's not just going to be confined to milk and eggs. It's going to affect butter. It's going to affect all forms of dairy, anything that comes. Basically, it's going to come down to any live animal
Anything that's
because,
natural and not
yes,
made in a lab.
exactly. Yeah. Yep.
But you know what? Who doesn't get bird flu are bugs, and they want us to start
Right.
eating bugs anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
but it's interesting, hun, what she was saying about like the regulations and all that. It reminds me of how was it California where they arrested that guy that was out
For surfing.
for surfing,
Yep.
but then they left all the liquor stores open.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, where it's like that I feel like I used to say, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Yeah.
Like that makes no sense at all. And they're telling you that it does. Just like a cheating spouse tells you, oh no, I didn't do that. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
it just, oh gosh, for me, that was one of my many red pill moments. But to see this guy out surfing with nobody around at 7 o'clock in the morning and they go arrest him, but then they're going to leave, Walmart open. I remember going into Walmart during like the height of COVID, and there was hundreds of people in there shopping, standing in line. They're a little 6 feet apart, and then, stuff like that. But sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. But that pretty much for me was a huge idea of you're going to tell these small farmers that they can't grow their own food and sell it to their neighbors because it's dangerous. You know what I mean? But then
Yeah.
it's just crazy.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's so maddening. And I mean, we've said it a million times. I cannot wait for January to roll
I
around
know.
and
That's
this
enough.
new administration get in there, because I just feel like they're doing everything they can to create so much chaos and fear and everything else
Yeah.
before he gets in, that it's going to just make his job 100 times harder.
At least it's less than a month away now, because it's now the 23rd.
Yeah.
I know we're getting very, very close. A
Mm.
lot can happen in that amount of time,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
But
We'll
he,
see.
he's doing a lot of good things already. And
Mhm.
the world, they even like the mainstream media is talking about how the world is looking at him as
Do
our
you
president.
do you see the way they're fucking trashing Biden right now? Like,
Yes.
I think I missed it last week. There was some report that came out, and I couldn't even find the report, but like every MSM outlet is totally trashing the Biden administration for how they hid his dementia. And they're going back to like, I must have read 10 articles that went all the way back to the Hunter Biden laptop and COVID and, all the lies they've been telling the American people. And like they are throwing the whole administration under the bus now, not just Biden.
But they were the ones that pushed
Right.
the narrative. Like that's
Exactly.
what's so crazy. It's like you lied to us and told us
Yes.
we were crazy for saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I
Ladies,
don't
if
know.
you don't mind, can I ask? I would love to ask. Like I was going back to that whole the red pill thing. I respect your opinions greatly. And do you mind if I ask, like, Stephanie, what was, if you can recall right now, your red pill moment? Like the moment where, because I don't think you kind of were you more liberal in the past and then you just kind of, or have you always been conservative?
Yeah, no, the first time I ever voted Republican was for Trump in his
Okay.
first term. I hated Republicans, but I wasn't even into politics really. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, I just want to like help the world," and but didn't really understand anything that was going on, didn't care, didn't pay attention until Trump. Like that was my wake-up call because with Obama, um I will never forget like listening to this thing where they said they asked all these top CEOs, do you like Obama as president? And they all said yes. And then they were asked, would you let him run your company? And they laughed and said no. And I was like, see, we need a businessman. So as
mhm.
soon as Trump came through, I was like, okay, this is what we need. We need someone that is not going to lie, that's going to say what they really mean and not just be well spoken and then lie to us. But that wasn't even my moment, okay? My red pill moment was in 2020, the Out of Shadows documentary. Did you see
Yes.
that?
I just watched it. It's funny. I did back then, and I just watched it again the other day. And I like sent her. I'm like, oh my God, stop what you're doing and watch this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That.
that's when I like really
Yeah,
opened up to, it like activated my conspiracy brain, I guess, or like that's when I realized just how dark all this stuff goes. So it was like Trump was like a wake-up call, but this is really what put me over the edge and just made me realize we are not living in the world we think we're living in. Like there is so much more to it. And I always think like if I could go back and not watch that, would I do that? Because it's hard, when you hear this stuff that's so dark, it's like sometimes I wish I didn't know any of that?
yeah. Like, is ignorance truly bliss? We were just talking about that this
Yes,
morning,
we
and
were.
it's a rough one. I mean, I totally agree with you on some of the dark things that I've learned just in the past few years have it's rough. It's very rough because you fight that idea of I thought it for a long time how I've always felt like, oh, a vast majority of the world are just good people, and they're I knew people that I worked with in the government that were just good people, that just did the right thing. And then I've had situations where I've people that I've known, like, that I found out were just bad people. I won't go into exactly what, but found out that they'd had these pasts where they'd done horrible things. And I'm like, dude, I thought I was a pretty good judge of character. Like I thought I knew this person. Yeah. So honey, what about you? What was your red pill, or even if you have one or two red pill moments? You've always been kind of conservative, but.
No, I wasn't. Like I grew up in a conservative household, so my
Mm.
parents were conservative. I went the total opposite direction and went down the liberal path and went to a liberal college and then became a cop and changed my ways when I started seeing the effects of uh democracy or, actually like the liberal agenda. Um and I don't share the same viewpoint you do in terms of good people, only because I saw so much horrible shit as a cop for so many years. But my red pill moment, honestly, kind of started with COVID and still being one of the, what did they call us? The necessary people or whatever,
Oh yeah.
the, what was the term they
Yeah, it was
used?
like
Yeah.
Not necessary.
Why is it? Yeah.
What the fuck
Um,
is the term? Well,
Not required, but
no,
yeah,
but
I know what
one
you're
of
talking
those
about.
career
Yeah,
fields where I
yeah.
still went
yeah.
to work every day, and I seeing the inconsistencies of COVID and the nonsense of like, you can eat in a restaurant. If you're sitting at the table, your mask doesn't have to be on. But if you get up and stand up, there's COVID 2 feet above you in the air. And me going to work every day and just being normal and sitting in meetings with people wearing masks, going, what the fuck are you wearing a mask in this meeting for when I just talked to you in the hallway face to face and you didn't have a fucking mask on, and just realizing I wasn't going to comply with any of this shit. But that was my start down the path, but the real red pill moment came when we started this podcast and I started hearing the theories Stephanie was bringing up for us to talk about. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? I've never heard of that before. And then it was that series, Stephanie, that you introduced me to. And I can't remember what it's called right now. What was it called?
Follow the cabal.
Follow the Cabal. The
Oh,
Follow the
yeah.
Cabal series was my ultimate red pill moment of how showing how everything is connected and how it's all come together. That for me was the defining like shift in my brain from laughing at conspiracy theorists to becoming one.
Yeah. It's so funny because I had worked for this woman before I had my red pill moment, and she had like most people, I feel like they had their wake up call in 2020, and then it's been like an onion. You're just peeling the layers and you're learning more and more. But she like had her wake up call, her red pill like years before that. And the shit that she would tell me, like we all thought she was crazy. We're like, this woman is fucking nuts. Like she's like paranoid. And now I'm like everything she said was right. And I thought she was just crazy, and I feel so bad for thinking that because it's like she wasn't crazy. She just saw what took me years to finally figure out. Um, but I do think like as hard as it is hearing some of this stuff, that's the only way to stop it. You know what I
I
mean?
wouldn't go back. I would not go
Yeah,
back to being ignorant. Like
right.
this, I feel that there is empowerment in knowing the truth. And while it's ugly and it's dark and it's scary, to me, it's more empowering than living in ignorance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
Well
look at
said.
history. Like, imagine during slavery, if everyone just ignored it, which people
Yeah.
did for like
Mhm.
eons, like for literally
Yeah.
ever. And then finally, someone was like, hey, this is wrong. We should probably stop this. And then they were looked at as like these radical extremists, and then obviously there was like a whole war about it. But it's like, thank God they did, because
Yeah.
otherwise we'd still have that. And so that's kind of how I look at it. It's like the people that stand up, it's never easy, and you're going to get
Mhm.
judged, and people are going to call you crazy or whatever. But if it's not for those people, it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to shine a light on it, you know?
Yep.
100%.
Oh, that went deep. That was good. That was
Yeah.
a good question, Erin. I
Yeah.
like it.
Well, I have so much fun. I've been asking more and more people that and just loving the answers. And it's like I think I've had many red pill moments. But I would say that for me, and this is more of maybe a red pill period of my life, was my dad was always very strong opinion about politics, about conspiracy theories, about things like that. And I remember being, you know, 14, 15 years old and thinking like, dude, this guy is talking crazy. Like, I'm in school. I know what's going on. Kind of, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that arrogance you have in your teens where you're just like, I know better than him. And I remember being like, oh, he's so cute, like he believes that. And the reason that I would never want to go back is that when I think back to some of the things that I thought about my dad, I cringe at myself because every fucking thing that he used to talk about, and I shit you not, has come true verbatim. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it just, and so to this day, like whenever I'll hear something or I'll realize like, oh shit, I was wrong about that, I will look up at the sky and be like, got that one right too, Dad. And I think that one of the reasons I would never want to go back either is because when you feel very strongly about something and you try to share that opinion with somebody else and they completely do not believe you or they completely disregard what you're saying, and then down the line it either comes true or they realize that they were wrong, part of you is like, you want to be like, nah, 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 but then part of you is it's a wonderful feeling because you just realize like that person just didn't know. They didn't understand. They didn't know. Now they know a better way of looking at it, or that now they know what the truth is. And it's it really is an incredible feeling when you're able to open somebody's eyes up, and that's one of the things I love about your guys' podcast is that you do that. And it may not be a red pill moment for somebody, it may be a period of time, but you're helping open those people's eyes. And I mean, you've done that. You guys have done that for me for so many different things that I had no idea about. So yeah, I think it's kind of it's like a homage. You guys are like awesome for people like my dad, who all those years didn't have a voice, tried to have a voice, and people thought he was crazy and didn't listen to him. And that's one thing. Like my brother, he's another one. I adore talking to him because he does like you guys. He's able to take these wonderful subjects that I find interesting, and they're very jumbled in my brain, and just you guys are able to take it and just get the point out there very smoothly, and I appreciate that about this podcast a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
thanks,
welcome.
Erin. Yeah, I feel like the election was very validating for me. It was like, okay, we're not these like rare people. Like this is everyone is on the same page. Not everyone, but the vast majority is on the same page, and it was all a lie. Like making us believe that the vast majority of people thought we were crazy was a lie. It's like we're all on the same page, and there's a few crazy like groups of people that
Smoke and
still buy
mirrors.
into the agenda,
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, this was fun. I
Yeah.
love having an Erin episode.
Yeah. And totally cool to have an Erin episode where she's actually sitting right next to me and not just on a screen. And one day, Stephanie, we're going to have one of these episodes too.
Yes, I know. Isn't that crazy? Like,
So,
we have never
Yeah.
met in person,
I know.
which
I
is
know.
like
It's
so
insane.
weird because I feel like we have. Like, I feel like we've known each other
Yeah.
our whole lives. But yeah,
I
that's like
know.
nuts. Thank God for technology, right?
Oh, shit. Yeah.
yeah.
The plus side of technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, I guess we can end it
Oh,
here.
yeah.
That's okay.
Happy Christmas. They say happy
That's
Christmas
what I
here
say.
instead of
Happy
Merry
Oh.
Christmas. Yeah. Well, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever you want to say. I am a firm believer in Merry Christmas, but to all of our listeners, we hope you have an amazing Christmas, since we will not be doing an episode Christmas Day. And Stephanie Watt will see everyone back here on Friday.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.